All right, family, we'll get started. We'll get back to the course material here. And this portion of the presentation of tonight's event is to help us get reinvigorated with the essence of what we are. Because logically we see what happens every day, and we make a presumption of what's going to happen tomorrow based off what happened yesterday. It's how we think, our mind works. So with this presentation, the point of it is to help us get back to the mystery of life, knowing that we don't know what comes tomorrow, but also balancing that with what we have gone through. So I'm intentionally looking to help rewire some of our thinking with this presentation, and it's more so geared towards each and every one of us because it's actually information about you. So who are you? That's the question. Who are you? Any takers in the audience? Anyone wants to comment on who they are? We got one.
Love.
We are love, is what she says. Any other feedback? Love is a good word to use because it creates creativity in your mind. It's not limiting when we say we are love. So I agree. We're also a lot of things. Some people may say, I am Kojo. But Kojo is what my father and my family called me. When I first heard the word Kojo, I had no idea what they were saying. So then, was I Kojo or did I become Kojo? The sister said I became Kojo, and that's true. So this is the line of thinking that we're going towards. We can balance the creativity with the logic, and this is the point of this presentation. So this is why I asked the question: who are you? Get the next slide. Sean, next slide. So the key takeaways that I would like for us all to walk away with, if you're going to miss a lot of what I say or catch a lot of what I say, these are the main things. I want you to understand that everything is multi-dimensional. A tree to you is much different than a tree to a bird or a tree to an ant, because it's their whole universe. It's their whole. You chop that tree down, it's like destroying the world. But to you and me, it just turns into paper. So everything is multi-dimensional and has come with different perspectives. Also, I want you to walk away knowing that life is miraculous. This is a miracle that we're going through right now, and it's never ending. So avoid getting caught up with the gloom and doom of life, of the stuff they show you on the news, of what your mama called you when you was little, of what so-and-so called you, or tried to make you become. The last thing is that life is everlasting. This is a continuous cycle. Any farmers in here or any people who put their hands in the soil and literally grow life out of the soil know that you need the leaves that fall off to make food for the next leaves to come. It's a continuum. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transferred. So we think of as death, it's actually a transfer of energy. So we have to understand this. We have to understand this on some level. Imagine we had a civilization where every morning people woke up and thought about these things. What would that world look like? How would we treat one another? Go to the next slide. So I'm really creating imaginative thoughts in our minds so that we can get beyond thinking how we have been thinking so linear. This first slide here is going into more of a understanding of our masculine and feminine energy, because this is where you all came from. If you sit in here, this is where you started. And what we see here is the feminine energy, which is whole. It's already complete. It's 360 degrees. It's curvy. Masculine energy is more straightforward. It's more direct. We also can see how there's no way to have a one-sided coin, because if you have something that is water, you must have something that is fire to be its component. It's its opposite, it's polar opposite. If you have the moon, you need the sun to reflect. If you have something that's cool, you must have something that's warm. Or else you wouldn't have anything to compare it to, and all would just be that. Which is what happened in our mind when we decide, I know how life is. Now life becomes only one way. And we don't leave room for it to become something else. So we must understand this. We must understand that when you look at the yin yang symbol, you're looking at perfect balance. You're not looking at two two opposing forces, you're looking at perfect balance. Because you could say, here's bad things that happen in life, here are good things that happen in life, here's a little bit of the bad and the good, here's a little good and the bad, and this is just, you can do a whole lifetime study of just the yin-yang symbol. Because it's a very deep aspect to our lives when we really understand the point of it. So again, just keep some of this stuff in your mind because I'm going to continue to repeat how amazing we are. I'm going to keep repeating how nothing is just one way. It's all about perception, how you perceive. You can go to the next one. Again, we are amazing. Do you see it? You made yourself. Once this occurred, your cells took on divine knowledge and wisdom of what you to become. And you literally divided yourself up until you became trillions and trillions of cells. There's more cells in you than there are stars in the sky. And you're always reproducing new ones. You are in a constant state of life and death because your cells are dying and your cells are being reborn. At all times. At all times. And these are things that when I'm down and sad, it brings me back to happiness because I recognize I am a part of nature. When you go and see that waterfall in the Niagara Falls or wherever you go, and you are in awe, this is how we must look at ourselves at times. Because we're a part of that waterfall. What we see here is what we hear many people talk about sacred geometry. And to be really brief with this, we hear a lot about the 7-day creation cycle they talk about in the Bible. A lot of it is dealing with how we develop as human beings. Because after the 7th cycle, you have 64 codons, which dealing with your protein makeup. And you're complete at that point. Your body can now make everything it needs after the 7th iteration of reproducing itself. Starting, of course, with this egg, which is this, which is this. And then you start dividing yourself. And then divine knowledge comes in and creates your bones, creates your eyes. But you are a part of that divine knowledge. You are that, and that is in you. You are a part of nature, and nature is a part of you. The divine creator is in you, and it's also out of you. It is as above, so below. We hear it so much, but this is what they're talking about. Go to the next slide. Now this slide, I really want to illustrate something that is a theory of mine, or it's a way I look at life, where I look at women energy, feminine energy, as the primal energy, or as the energy that brings everything together. And I look at us men as the one that sometimes breaks things down. We kind of destroy things by nature. Our nature is to be chaotic at times. Our nature is to be a little, we're not as socially acceptable as women. Whereas you have a child who may have done some crime, and a woman will be there and defend him. But a lot of times the father, because he's so principled, he's thinking, I'm never going to forgive him. He violated my principles. And so what I'm trying to paint the picture here is that just as we see what's going on in the world with the Caucasian race, we can see similar energies in men doing the same thing. And just as we see the loving nature of Africanness or Aboriginal people, we find that in women. So I'm trying to bridge that in your mind and understand that none of this is to say something is evil or something is horrible, we need to destroy anything. It's just that the masculine energy can be seen as destructive and the feminine energy can be seen as creative. But even in creativity, you find destruction. And even in destruction, you find creativity. So again, nothing is one way unless you choose it to be a way. It is your choice. And I also want to this illustration here is specifically to highlight in nature, you find nothing but curvy lines. But when you start finding man-made objects, you start seeing more things that are straight. Because in nature, nothing is straight, perfectly straight. Because energy likes to revolve. Energy likes to go in a circle. It prefers it until it condenses itself and become a particle. We're going to get into that a little later. I also want to help people understand what is yin and what is yang when you look at it. Yin, I see in, and women energy is inner. There's an inner to women energy. So you always can relate yin to a woman. And yang, which some people may have heard the word wang, hang out with your wang out, that's masculine energy. So yin is female, yang is masculine. It's an easy way to remember. We also have more traits. I don't read all the charts, I trust your intelligence. I know that you can read that far faster than I can explain it to you. So just keep some notes on understanding what is the core masculine traits and what is the core feminine traits, because it's going to come to play later on. But the main thing to understand that I like to use is women energy is very curvy and circular, masculine energy is very straight. You go to the next slide. The point of this slide here is to help us understand. We hear a lot in the metaphysics world, frequencies. I'm trying to get my frequencies high, frequencies. Frequency and frequently is basically the same word. Only difference is there's an L and there's a C. Other than that, and the capital L and the capital C are very similar to show that they're trying to express the same idea. What a frequency simply is when you start something and then you finish something. So the more you do something over and over again, the more it's going to become who you are. And that's what they say, I need to change my frequencies. Or they say, I need to stop doing what I've been doing frequently and do something new. So that's the point of this slide. It's also illustrated when you look at the yin-yang symbol, it's really just the sine wave flipped over on itself, which becomes a circle. But the point of here is to understand that at the beginning, you start, you have a peak, you go down, you have a valley, and then you go back to where you started. And you compress the time, the peak will go high, you compress the time, the valley will go lower. And you will have a higher energy. It takes more energy to go from really, really high to really, really low. So that shows that in nature, anytime you have sudden energy shift, there's going to be a huge impact. You're going to get a lot of turbulence. This is why birth is such a painful experience. This is why death is such a painful experience, because a lot of energy changing, shifting direction. Another aspect of this I want to express is how our minds form addictions and our minds form beliefs. And this is by the thoughts we have in our minds are impregnated into the electric pulses that go through our body. So when you decide you want to move your foot, there's a thought that says you have to move your foot. And the light picks up on that. It understands the consciousness of it, and it takes the energy to where it needs to go. And over time, just like a small, close your eyes for a minute and imagine a small creek. In that small creek, the water is slowly, the reservoir of water is slowly getting more volume. And so the water is going to start flowing faster through that creek, which in turn is going to expand the land. As the land is expanded, more water can flow through this riverbank. This is the same thing that happens in our mind. We start thinking something repetitiously, and that stream gets wider and wider and wider to the point where it happens almost automatically. This is why we practice. When we control it, we can make our bodies do what we want it to do, because we have decided we want the energy with this message to go down this path because I choose it to. And this is how addictions happen. This is also how we have emotions. Because once again, something may happen, your subconscious mind comes on and says, oh, this is horrible. It sends a bunch of energy to a certain point of our body, and we start feeling certain emotions. It's almost like playing music. It's very similar. These are different musical notes. And through life, you'll experience each one, because you have to understand it, to evolve from it, to choose what do you want for yourself. And so these are related because, again, your mind is creating a path for your energy to flow through. And this is the end result as a whole. In these images you can find online and get more information if you want to study more into this aspect of our being. Go to the next slide. And this is the last slide. I'm going to really focus specifically on masculine and feminine, but I want to keep bringing this back up, because I want you to know that there is no just feminine energy. There is no just masculine energy. And what this slide is telling you that in life, when they say I want to balance my energy, it's not about being 50-50. That's not what balance really is in this sense. True balance is knowing when to call upon masculine energy and when to call upon feminine energy. That is true balance. Knowing how. If you have a child who just hurt themselves, you don't tell them it's going to be, shut up, be quiet. That's masculine. They need some feminine nurturing. They need to be rubbed. So that's what balance is. Knowing when, and I also want to express that these energies are manipulated intentionally in our society a lot. There's a lot of things going on to get masculine people to be more feminine and feminine to be more masculine. So that when the warriors who are supposed to defend us are put on the battlefield, they're not defending us. So that the women who are supposed to be healing our civilization are focused on themselves. This is what happens when you start getting mixed up and twisted. But again, the main point in this slide is to understand we need to know what energy to pull upon and when. Next slide. We're gonna get more into how amazing we are. Y'all starting to see how amazing you are? Yeah. We're gonna keep going until y'all get it. Y'all gonna get it. This slide, now we're going more into what we've heard in many, many, many ancient texts about in the beginning, there was the Word. And the Word was good, or God, same word. The original text in the Bible, before they transcribed it from Greek, it was, in the beginning was the Logos. And this is how Logos looks in Greek. This is how Logo looks in English. Very similar, you can see. Our language, when you study the etymology of language, it opens up a whole new world. I highly recommend us study the words we use because it's really the program that we've downloaded to see the world through. Because without these words, we couldn't relate to one another. So it's like an operating system inside of us, just like Windows or Mac is. Very similar. So in the beginning, there was the Logos. And Logos is a little bit different from word because word, for us, when we hear the word, we're going to think about some letters. When you hear logos, now you're thinking about a symbol. You're thinking about something that's beyond just one thing. You can use a logo in different ways and it means different things. But for us, a word pretty much means one thing when you hear it. And so in the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with the Creator, and the Logos was the Creator. And that shows that the Creator expresses itself through us, through something physical. The Creator is us, and we are the Creator, but we're part of it. And I have a short video that's going to go more into explaining what this is all about, so you can really see it for yourself. Next slide. Can you flip the screen?
If you run simple sine waves through a dish of water, you can see patterns in the water. Depending on the frequency of the wave, different ripple patterns will appear. The higher the frequency, the more complex the pattern. These forms are repeatable, not random. The more you observe, the more you start to see how vibration arranges matter into complex forms from simple repeating waves. This water vibration has a pattern similar to a sunflower. Water is a very mysterious substance. It is highly impressionable. That is, it can receive and hold on to vibration. Because of its high resonance capacity and sensitivity, and an inner readiness to resonate, the water responds instantaneously to all types of sonic waves. Vibrating water and earth make up the majority of mass in plants and animals. It is easy to observe how simple vibrations in water can create recognizable natural patterns. But as we add solids and increase the amplitude, things get even more interesting. Adding cornstarch to water, we get more complex phenomena. Perhaps the principles of life itself can be observed as vibrations move the cornstarch blob into what appears to be a moving organism. The animating principle of the universe is described in every major religion, using words that reflect the understanding of that time in history. In the language of the Incas, the largest empire in pre-Columbian America, the word for human body is Alpa Camasca, which means literally, animated earth.
So with this video here, again, we're talking about the word and logos, and if you study a science called cymatics, it's actually a study of sound waves moving through a fluid. And when we hear all these new age mantras, Om, and they do different things, it's actually a science. Because when we were free living in the jungle, or living wherever we live without how we live today, and we could sit around and just ponder the universe, there were people who said, what about just make this noise all day? How would it make you feel different? And they would do this. They were curious, because they had nothing else to do. And in doing so, they started realizing certain vibrations did enhance the body in certain ways. And that's where a lot of these current modern day mantras come from. Specifically Om, which is actually the vibration or the sound that the sun makes. And they've had modern day science people to prove that. And so you study the chakra system, you understand the crown chakra, they call it Om, and they have the different Sanskrit writing for it. There's a reason for all that. It's not just coincidence or them making something up. They took water and they actually added cornstarch to it. And they played some very high vibrations that's unaudible to the ear, and you can watch the clay actually start moving as it's an organism, like me and you. It looks very creepy, to be honest with you. And it goes to show again, there is things that we cannot hear or see affecting us each and every day. And it's not to get spooktified or think there's a ghost following me. It's just to understand we can only experience a very, very small slither of reality. And all these realities are actually happening all at once. And we affect them and they affect us. And to say that I understand exactly how it affects us, I'll be lying to you. But to understand that it's a real thing. You can go to the next slide. So one thing they also want to express in that video, they talk about water because again, cymatics is the study of sound waves through water or through fluid. And one thing that I always express to us is that there's many people, I have family members and cousins and other people in my life who despise water, that I don't like drinking water, but you are 70% water. So when you don't like water, you don't like yourself. You're saying, I'd rather not be me, which is not, it's impossible. This is why we must, and we are learning that we're amazing. We are a part of the earth, which is 70% water. The human body is roughly 70% water. As above, so below. You starting to see how amazing you are yet?
Oh yeah.
We're gonna keep getting it. We're gonna keep getting it until y'all get it. Next slide. Another aspect of water is that it is the universal solvent. It receives energy. You can speak to water. There's a guy, he's recently deceased from Japan named Dr. Emoto. And what he did is he had a very special camera we can actually record and take pictures of water molecules. And what he did is he would take words to the side of the glass and he would go back and look at it later. You can see this one here is, it says the words, I despise you. And there's no harmony in that water. The water looks like toxin or something, sludge. This one here, it says, you fool. And it looks like, who knows? There's no order there. Now you can look at the other ones. Can you close this one? These other ones here, we have the image, Imagine by John Lennon. They play music to it. We have the song Amazing Grace. And you can see what happens when you put some beautiful positive vibrations into water. So this is also why when a person comes at you and says something negative to you, you feel it, right? This is what you're feeling. This is what you're feeling. You're feeling all the water molecules in your body rearranged into something that's not harmonious. This chart here just shows the makeup of what amount of water is in each part of your body. So your blood, your skin, your teeth, which has very little water. But again, to show you that water is you. Another aspect of water is that mammals are born and are created in the water. And in the beginning, we all look almost the same because we're all very, very, very close to one another in this reality. And the water, whether you're a man or a pig or reptile, the water at first is receiving, hey, we have a mammal. being born. And then you can see the early development of it. But as it goes on, the divine consciousness in you changes you from either a reptile or a man to what you're supposed to be. Because at first we all start basically the same again. And there's a little joke over here that says, if Jesus walked on water and we're 70% water, if I walk on you, I'm 70% Jesus. A little joke, keep it light, because some of this stuff can be heavy. You go to the next slide, Sean. Now, we're going to go to a little bit of mathematics. And it doesn't take much more than algebra and 10th to 11th grade to get this concept here. This is what they call in nature, study of nature, and also just mathematics, phi. Phi is a number 1.618, and it goes on to infinity. That number never stops. And what this number is, it's the number that nature uses to create itself. Whenever it makes itself once and it goes to make itself again, it uses this number. And to understand this number, it's a simple equation, but not even focus on the equation, just look at this picture in your hand. The first two bones have the same ratio as the next two bones, and the next two bones. It's the same ratio, it's the same perspective. It's using the same pattern to reproduce itself. Because that is also more, that's the masculine aspect, because that is permanent. The masculine energy is the foundation. It keeps everything, it's like earth, it's the substance. Where the feminine energy is the more creative one, the one that kind of flows around. And so we're going to see how the golden ratio can be looked at as the masculine energy, and the Fibonacci sequence can be looked at as the feminine energy, which further enhances our greatness and our amazingness, because we are amazing. Next slide. We all see this spiral. Everywhere you go, you see the spiral. This is the Fibonacci sequence spiral. The cosmos are made from it. Our wonderful, great origin, Africa has it in its design. An egg has it, your fingerprints. Everywhere you see, there's a spiral. Seashells, pineapple, pine cone. It is how nature reproduces itself as well. This is the feminine aspect of how nature produces itself. On the next slide, you'll see how they merge together. And I'll give you some more, you'll understand it better. The next slide, it'll all come together. What this slide shows is how the Fibonacci sequence is created. What they do, what we do, is we take basically nothing plus the first number, which would be 1. Then we take 1 plus itself, which is 2. Then you add 1 plus 2 to get 3, and then you add 2 and 3 to get 5. So you're always adding these two numbers at the end to each other for the next equation. So again, 1 plus 2 is here, 2 plus 3 is here, 5 plus 3 is here. And you're seeing what numbers you would come to, right? So again, all we're doing is adding the end of this equation together. When we do that, and we start looking at, we start actually comparing these numbers. So we're going to compare this number to that number, this number to that number. By just simply dividing, we'll see 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. And as you keep on doing that iteration, you get closer and closer and closer to the masculine principle. So again, we have feminine energy seeking masculine energy at all times. This is how you're designed. This is how nature is designed. Because you are a part of nature's design, and nature is a part of your design. There is no separation. Only in the mind will you make it one thing. Only in the mind. And when you get beyond that, you make it everything. And you can see the beauty that life really is. And you can see the ugly parts of life really is. And it doesn't bother your soul. You go to the next slide. Now, in order to understand any part of math, any part of life, to know anything in this reality, you must have light to observe it. Without light, you're going to be in darkness. Although a blind man can hear, he can get light through his ear, because light and sound are interchangeable. Again, energy is just always changing form. What I want to express with this image here and these images is that this is where it comes from, this reality. Without this thing here, we ain't doing none of this. Ain't no talking, ain't no police, nothing, ain't no pro nothing. Ain't no just nothing, as far as we understand. And also, as I expressed earlier, we can only see this aspect of life. All this is like X-rays and gamma rays. All this is like radio waves. And for all we know, it goes on beyond that. That's just how much we can perceive. And so with that little perception, we understand all that we know today. Which shows how limited it is, which may be frustrating. How come I can't see the rest? That's cool. Just be happy with what you got. Study what you have. Because a lot of times we want something new and we're not even focused on where we are. I can't get over there if I'm mad at right here, because I'm going to be mad and angry. So we have to learn to find balance in knowing I don't know enough, but being okay with that. So I can then in turn go find more information. You can go to the next slide. The light body is what we are. Everything you see in here is just condensed light. That's all it is. That's all reality is. It gets denser and denser and denser, then and at times it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. There's also what they call light, and why something not heavy is light. It's not by accident. The main points I want to express with this image is, number one, our eyeball is a black hole that allows light not to escape it. If your eyeball was not a black hole, you could not see anything because the light would not get trapped into your being. And then it would not go through your mind, which then in turn it creates this reality from you. I also want to express that when we talk about chakras and we talk about these spinning wheels and how light interacts with us, we must understand that it's a real science. It's not just something that you can never understand, because in your body you have fiber optics, and it's the white material you see here. It's similar to fiber optics, I should say. It's called fascia, muscle fascia. And if you ever ate chicken, which most of us have eaten chicken, when you take the skin off the chicken, there's that thin layer of skin, that's the fascia. And that fascia is what allows energy to move through your body at super fast rates. That's the point of it. The purpose of it is to distribute energy through your body. And it says, when speaking of energy within and around one's body, it is often perceived as something mystical or unrealistic. However, the body is energy, and energy is realistic and scientific, and your muscles, bones, and body systems. Energy within your body is, it's hard to see. Again, the main message is that in these energy centers, you also have organs, and you also have glands, and they all are all being playing music, so to speak. At certain points in time, energy is going to go into your digestive system at a certain point of the day. This is why you shouldn't eat at night, because your digestive system is looking to shut down. And if your digestive system shuts down and you're eating, you're putting food in a place where it's going to sit until the morning. And so that's to understand that at certain points in time, each center is going to be more active. You go to the next slide. Another aspect of the light body, and a lot of people like to study this, which is the aura, which is actually a phenomenon that when you can start perceiving more than we would say is typical, even though in my opinion, we're actually being taught to perceive less. We're born seeing it all, and we're taught to see less over time. If we didn't go through that process, or we went through that process and we recovered our seeing ability, we could actually see little hues around people. It's like a bluish, whitish hue. And you can see it naturally with the right food program, with the right mental program, where you're not always angry. You're allowing yourself to be full and be complete. You're accepting the wholeness that we are. You can start perceiving it. Right here, this technology, all this technology is actually called Carillion photography. Another great thing to study if you want to learn more about the aura and how we've, over time, allowed technology to help us perceive it. The one thing I put this image here, this is actually a coin. And this is to show that even coins are alive. Or they have consciousness. They have something radiating from it. There's an energy in inanimate material. Even these chairs. If you took the chair and took a picture with it, you would still see something like this around it because it is light condensed. Here we can see cooked food, we can see raw food. In the cooked food, we can simply see how less energy is coming off of it versus when it's alive. Here's a cooked piece of meat, here's a raw piece of meat. Here's your hands. Some of us have studied and understand acupressure, acupuncture, and we know that our nervous system connects at different points in our body, and we can actually release headaches by touching points on our hands. We can release pain by touching points on our feet, and that's what this image is trying to express. If this was more visible, you can actually see that there's certain parts of our hand that respond to certain aspects of our being. And it's all related. I'm just giving a little bit of what I know. There's so much more to study, and I highly recommend everyone here look more into some of this when they have the time because it's fascinating. It shows we're amazing. In the world where everybody thought like this, not trying to say that would ever happen, but in the world where more people thought like this or understood these things, we will appreciate one another more because we all know we're all from the same place. We will all know that we're all amazing. And we should all appreciate that with one another. You can go to the next slide. Now this is just the background from the last slide. I use this to also express again, these are the different chakra points. Anybody ever studied chakra, it's pretty common, you've probably heard these phenomena. But also another aspect of phenomena of chakras go into the aura, where we actually have in our light body, or that blue band you saw in the last image, we actually have different layers of that blue band. And they all influence certain aspects of us. The closer you get to us, the more physical of the aspect it becomes. So for example, the closest band is your emotional body. Because your emotions are more, how can you say, they're going to impact your life more than say your celestial. What's happening on Mars right now is not going to affect you as much as what's happening in your emotions. So that's what this is trying to illustrate. Next slide. This is fun stuff right here. To me, this is one of the most amazing aspects to reality, not just us, but reality in and of itself. And this is actually a science that in modern time, we're just starting to understand. We're actually starting to utilize this, practice this, and create computers. Have anyone ever heard of something called a quantum computer? This kind of dwells into more of what that science is about. And this is also dealing with light because everything is light. What we're witnessing here is the different ways light can behave. Light can behave as a wave, and if it behaves as a wave, if it went through these two slots, some light would come through this slot, and some light would come through that slot, and they would actually merge at certain points and create strong intensity bands. They would join forces. The light from here and the light from here, that's why here we see the most intense light. Light can also behave as a particle, which is what we are. We're the particles of light, organized. And how that works is particles go through in a straight line. It's really pretty much self-explanatory with the visual, which is why I use this particular vision so you can get an understanding of how light can behave. Light coming from the sun is a waveform. Light going in your body is a particle. As light turns to vitamin D, it goes to protein synthesis and different things, different minerals in your body, and it becomes a particle. So we go to the next slide, we can start seeing what this experiment, this is called the double slit experiment. Next slide.
You said double split?
Double slit, S-L-E-T. Now, what scientists were doing, they were playing around with photons, which is the smallest aspect of light that you can have. And they took these double slits, they closed one up, and they shot light through it, and they went to the other side. Pretty self-explanatory. Then they decided to open this one up, and they started shooting light through it, and it started looking more like a wave. And at the end of the day, it was like that. They said that didn't make any sense. Why did light go through two slits and make a wave function? How can that be possible? So they said something's going on here. We're going to figure it out. We're going to find out what's happening. So what they did is, the next slide, they put a camera to watch. Next slide. They added a camera and they recorded what was happening at this double slot. And all of a sudden, it went back to acting like particles. Without them doing anything different but adding a camera to watch that particular area. Then they said, all right, we're gonna turn the camera off and look at this one more time. They turned the camera off and it went back to acting like a wave. It blew their minds, and it's still blowing our minds. We still are trying to further the science today, right now, because we don't understand how light can be aware that we're watching it. And it goes back to me explaining early on, when we think, I want to move my foot, the light that creates itself, when you think that, and the thought you have, it's aware of what thought you put in, and that's how it knows where to go. That's how when you look at something, you make it, you force it to be what you want it to be, and it becomes that, because we're creating. Phenomenal stuff. Does anybody see how amazing we are yet? All right. Who don't? Who's not impressed? Who's like that double slit experiment? That's garbage.
I ain't saying it's garbage.
Okay.
There's too much distraction in the world.
All right. I said. Next slide. So we just went quantum. We just want quantum to understand that we are consciousness evolving. That's what we really are. We're different experiences at different times, different realities, learning about ourselves. And what happens when the light comes through our eyes and caught in that black hole, the first things that start getting introduced is we have these glands, these powerful glands that's very, 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 very interesting if you study. These 4 glands control almost every gland in your body. And so when the light comes in and our brain decides how we feel about it, these are the first things that start triggering to make the responses happen. And another thing that we have to understand, as our consciousness is evolving, we have to get away from the stagnation approach of the solar system that we were taught in school, where they had a sun in the middle, and it just all the planets spun around it. In reality, the sun is flying through space, and the planets are in its wake trying to keep up with it, because it's going somewhere. Because light is always going somewhere, because light is always evolving. It's always evolving or revolving, which is very much similar to one another. What we have here is a scene from Kemetic Sciences about what we will call in the Christian faith Judgment Day. Because at one point in time, we all are going to leave this reality. And when we leave this reality, we're going to go somewhere. Because what do we say to begin? Life and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only can be transferred. Because of that, we're that amazing. We cannot destroy, we are infinite. But however, we are also the judges of ourselves. This is the cross. There's a heart and there's a feather. And this scene speaks on, if your heart is lighter than a feather, then your heart will not be eaten, because you live the righteous life. So we're trying to understand today, this nature versus industry is something that collectively our consciousness is evolving through. We're going through the world and destroying all of the world's resources. So we got to ask ourselves, what's going to happen here? We have to ask ourselves that and understand our role in that as we continue to evolve consciously. Go to the next slide. Reincarnation is an aspect to this Western society because due to the influence of Christianity, it's not spoken about a lot or hasn't been in the past. But almost every other ancient science talks and speaks upon it. And here we have the origin of what we find in Christianity with the angels. You can see it. What this is called is the Ba. This is actually showing that the life force, we make another way to look at it as the soul, but that's not really exactly how we looked at it. This shows the soul leaving the body and going on to the other side. And I also wanted to show you here, we got the green lantern with a little symbol on the shirt. You can see where they got that from. And again, we have here the crossroads, with the feather and the heart. And if we talk to anybody who ever almost died, or if you look into near-death experiences, every single one of them, and even in movies you'll hear, they'll say, my life flashed before my eyes. Your life flashed before your eyes, so you go into the scene of judgment to decide for yourself. There is no Savior, there's no one judging you but yourself, because you're that amazing. You came here to do something, and then when you're done, you're going to say, hey, did I do it? That's how amazing we are. But we give other people our power, we don't see it. We start thinking about so-and-so did something to me, we don't see it. Although we do impact our environment does give us feedback, we're still the ones who are the ultimate decider of how to take that feedback and receive it. But at the end of the day, from my understanding, all the ancient sciences speak upon, at some point, you can decide not to come back to this place and live yourself in your light body, which is a key aspect to the high science of our ancient ancestors. So I just want to again reiterate. At one point, our heart's going to stop beating. Then we're going to see what we did. And we're going to understand how we feel about what we did. And that's going to determine our spiritual growth. And the Green Lantern will be there. Go to the next one. So this is a little blurb I found and I felt compelled to share because it's I find it very poetic. And this is a scene. This is dealing with transcendence, because the word transcend, again, with wordplay, it is saying ending the trance, or trance end. Because we're really in the trance right now. Your sleeping state is just as much as important as your waking state. Only thing is you think that's a dream. This is a dream too. So the end of trance is transcendence. So, this is a little proverb that I like to read to kind of help us understand what we're going through. It reads, in the mother's womb were two babies. The first asked the other, do you believe in life after delivery? The baby said, why, of course. There has to be something after delivery. Maybe we are here to prepare ourselves for that. Then he said, nonsense. There's no life after delivery. What would that be like? What is that? The second baby said, I don't know, but there'd be more light than in here. Maybe we'll walk with our legs and eat with our mouth. Baby said, that's crazy. Walking is impossible. Eat with our mouths, that's ridiculous. We get food from the umbilical cord. That has to be excluded. If the umbilical cord is too short, we'll die. We won't survive that. Then the baby said, nah, there's something there. Maybe it's just different. The doubting baby said, no one has ever come back from there. Delivery is the end of life, and after delivery, there's nothing but darkness and anxiety, and that's it. It takes us nowhere. The more wise baby said, well, I don't know, but certainly we will see mother and she will take care of us. The doubt baby said, mother? You believe in mother? Where's she at? The calm baby said, she's all around us. It is her in that we live. Without her, there would not be this world. The baby said, nah, I don't see her. And it's only logical, since I don't see her, she's not here. You're just making stuff up. Finally, the baby replied, sometimes when you're in silence, you can hear her, you can perceive her. I believe there's a reality after delivery. We are here to prepare ourselves for that reality when it comes. Just dwell on that. Next slide. This is the end.
That was cold. Can I say? That was cold. That's cold.
I'll show you, brother. So that does conclude the presentation, but I also want to remind us all what the point of this presentation was, because there was a lot of things to consider, to ponder, to research, to think about. But the main reason I want to present this information is to understand that everything is multidimensional. And you must seek greater perspective to find it. Because if you don't seek greater perspective, you stay exactly where you are, and your beliefs will keep you where you are, because you won't even believe there's something else you could do. The second aspect, life is miraculous. I know we've had I have some doubts about this stuff from time to time. This is not a one-shot bullet of, if you understand this, your life will be amazing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there was a culture of people who discussed this more frequently, we would have an elevation of perspective and we would be better off as a whole. But life is miraculous, so we must avoid the doom and gloom trap, because what this system is doing is showing us nothing but negativity. So we have negative thoughts, so the energy goes through our body in negative pathways, and then we create a negative world collectively. So you get caught in the gloom and doom, the world will become gloom and doom. And to stop and get away from all the outside craziness and look at the inner beauty is a tool to use when everything around you seems chaotic. Because inside you is harmony, if we choose it to be. And finally, life is everlasting. The sun we have Monday may not burn, but there will be other stars. And science to this day are now acting like it's some mystical thing that they're finding other potential life on other planets and different things. But again, just like a tree may fall over and all the inhabitants have no home, this earth could be gone one day and all of its inhabitants may have no home, but there's life in other places. The important thing to understand with life and creation is what we do with it. That's the most important thing. What is our purpose of using this life force? And with that, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your attention. I should. Any questions? Next slide, Sean. There's one more slide. Just give them gratitude. Any questions or any comments or feedback?
What's your name?
My name is Kojo. And how can you?
There's like kind of more work that you do, more stuff like this.
I have a Facebook page called Metaphysical. I do drumming circles. We're gonna have more events coming up soon. I'm actually in the process of getting my actual material together so we can teach some of this stuff in condensed forms to children and different things. It's history. We gotta teach true history to our kids. We can't keep teaching them about ancient Greece. And so I'm working on developing that stuff, but it's look out for the Pieces of Peace. More than likely by springtime next year we'll be going full force. Brother Rocky?
I have a question about the slide before the last one.
Can you go back a couple? You know?
More right first.
Sure. One more shot.
You were talking about the symbol that's on Green Lantern.
Yes.
What is the symbol indicate anciently?
This symbol is Shem, and it stands for the infinite. It's basically everlasting.
I think that's cool because actually the Green Lantern. So there are a bunch of different. The symbol in Green Lantern comes from the rings of Oa. And so there are a bunch of different colors, right? And they span the spectrum. And each one is powered and fueled by a different energy source, right? Like Green Lantern's arch nemesis wears a yellow ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his ring is powered by fear. Everybody who has a green ring in that symbol, all of their rings are powered by willpower.
It's interesting because we study chakra system. Yellow is for willpower, actually, and green is the center. And without the center, you can't have. It's the bridge, basically. And I'm glad you brought that up because you're dealing with, again, sunlight and the bands that we can actually see. And every comic that we can find, and virtually all of them come from African spirituality. And it also makes me wonder, one thing I did want to make a point is every color can be transferred into a number because of the frequencies. How many times it reproduces itself in a certain set amount of time, which can then be in turn converted to a color or a number. So numbers, colors, and light are all the same. They're all the same, they're just different variations of even music to the pianist in the corner. There's every musical note can be considered a color. Any further questions, thoughts? Again, thank you.
Thank you for the lesson.
So you can.